To make it on YouTube, you have to create videos, right? Everyone knows that. And normally, the more videos you create, the more views you get. It's really helpful to just pump out a lot of videos. But it's not so easy to do that, right? Easier said than done. So why aren't you out there creating more videos? And normally the answer is, procrastination, productivity, and, the fact that creating videos is just hard. So that's exactly what we're going to be talking about in today's episode. We're going to be giving you all of our YouTube productivity hacks and just different tips that we found over our years on YouTube that'll help you create more videos and get them published online. All right, guys, welcome back to another episode. My name is Augie Johnston. I'm here with my co-host Grant Ball, and this is the Video Creator Show. And today we're talking about productivity specifically for YouTubers. So, there's a lot of different ways we could take this, but I'd like to take this to the very beginning of kind of the creation part of making videos for YouTube, and that's with your video topic, your title, and your thumbnail, right? The first things you need to do is come up with a topic, come up with a title, and come up with a thumbnail idea. That's normally a kind of a best practice way to kind of get started. So, Grant, what are some productivity tips that you might have for coming up with a topic or a title or any of those three things I just mentioned?
Mm-hmm. Well, one thing that is counterintuitive that I like to say is stop trying so hard, which, again, counterintuitive seems odd, right? You want to get more done, shouldn't you try harder? Sometimes, yes, but you mentioned that making videos is hard. But making more videos, as a general rule, will help you succeed on YouTube more. The fear, of course, is that you make the wrong videos, you make bad videos, and if you stop trying so hard, for instance, let's say you have writer's block, or you don't quite know how to edit this one thing, you keep trying different parts, different ways of editing a part of a video, and it's just not working out. Maybe just go do the dishes, go for a walk, go on a run, do something else that's productive, because chances are, if you're kind of obsessed with getting things done and succeeding, what you actually have is an obsession with productivity. So if you've hit a wall with your creation process, then go do something else productive. And chances are you will find the answer as soon as you stop trying to find the answer. Sometimes when I just do the dishes or go for a run, something productive like that, the answer will just kind of come to me. It's the idea of shower thoughts, right? When you're in the shower, you can't do anything else. You are wet, you're covered, you are separated from the rest of the world, and that allows ideas to flow. So stop trying so hard, do something else productive, and you might be surprised that you figure something out.
Yeah, it's a great tip. I think that shower thoughts is a good idea, because you need to go for a walk and start thinking about ideas and stuff. You'll probably come up with something by the time you get home. And, I would add to that once you do come up with that idea after that walk, or a couple ideas or whatever, create a document, put them on there, and
Yes.
so you'll have them forever. So that would be like my little add-on productivity hack there. But yeah, that's a great segue to coming up with video topics and titles and that kind of stuff. Is this kind of step away, because I don't know, I guess if you just sit in front of a computer, right, it's the empty notepad, you just stare at it and then you get distracted and do something else and you're not focusing on the task at hand. Okay, so let's move on. So when talking about never missing an upload, right? Like, let's say you have a weekly upload schedule, or you have even a daily upload schedule. Let's just go with weekly, because we're not doing anything crazy right now. What would be some productivity hacks that you can think of that would help a YouTuber stay on task and make sure they get the videos published?
Well, one thing is, I think there can be an artificial obsession with how long a video needs to be. I was actually watching this guy's channel the other day. His channel is called Wheezy Waiter. You may have seen some of his videos. He'll do things like, me and my wife quit coffee for 3 months, and this is what happened. He's been on YouTube forever, since like 2007, 2008, just a long time. And for years, he had a dogma that his videos had to be short and sort of irreverent and zany and sort of pointless. Not pointless, but like comedic, and he stuck to a very specific style and video length. But that worked very well to begin with. But over time, his channel started declining. He started running out of ideas, and then he took a break, threw all of his dogmas out the window, and started making videos that he thought were interesting. So I quit coffee for 3 months. This is what happened. I woke up at 5 a.m. every day for a month. This is what happened. And the videos were 3-4 times as long as his original videos, which tended to be anywhere from like a minute to maybe 4 minutes. And these new ones were usually like 15 minutes plus, maybe a little shorter sometimes. And just changing that and not being so obsessed actually allowed him to make better videos, get way more views. His channel is doing great now. He gets over 100,000 views a video, though he doesn't release weekly. So I know this topic is on weekly uploads, but generally he does hit once a week-ish, and it's working well for him. So it's, if you become obsessed with like, my videos have to be 8 minutes plus, my videos have to be this long, and I can't fit this idea into this one mold, well, maybe you are being too regimented with what you're doing. Maybe take a step back and think, what is it that I'm trying to convey here? And just let it flow. And however long the video ends up being, whatever style is necessary, maybe just do that and see what happens.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, I really want to check that guy's channel out. You've mentioned it before. Those are great topics. The quit coffee for 30 days. Here's what happened. Like, that makes me want to even go search it, let alone click it if it pops up on my homepage. So cool stuff there. And as far as what I'll add to that, is, if you have, this is what I've heard some YouTubers say, like Graham Stephan is one of them, where is a weekly uploader, and some days he would take a look at a week and say, okay, this one day my schedule's open, it's free. That's the day that all I have to do, my only thing on my to-do list is to create a video and get it uploaded to YouTube. Now that sounds like one task, but really that breaks down into a lot of small tasks, right? Like writing a script and creating the title, all the topic, all that kind of stuff. But I mean, if you wake up and the only thing you have to do that day is to hit publish by the time you close your laptop in the evening, then I think it's doable. It's hard. It would take you maybe the full day, or some people much less, who knows? But I think that's a good way to do it, because you can say, okay, Mondays are my video days. I'm not taking any calls that day. I'm not going to go play basketball that day. I'm just going to wake up, video topic, write the script, titles, the thumbnail, all that kind of stuff, sit in front of the camera, record it. Right when I'm done recording, I'm going to edit that video real quick, create that thumbnail, whatever, get it uploaded, finish it, and then just hit publish by the time I clock out, and then it's done for the week. I think that's a great way. And, some people call that time blocking. So there's a productivity hack right there, is you kind of block out time, and you could spread that one day out over 3 days, right? Script, or, record and then edit the next day. But you need some sort of cadence to where you can't just be random. If you want to upload every week, you can't just record when you feel inspired that day. You kind of got to, be on schedule a little bit. And just the second part of that is, just as you're going through everything, write everything down, put it on a document. And I'll say that probably multiple times today, but that's what's helped me the most. Creating checklists, to-do lists, putting it down on a document, adding notes to something every day or whatever, and just keeping just one document that just has like 1,000 different things on it. That's kind of how I do it. I know that's a little bit maybe studious or whatever, but I'm kind of like a little bit of a space cadet, and I'll get distracted real easy and stuff. And so I've just learned myself over the years that I definitely need to write things down, put them in notes and that kind of stuff if I ever want them to actually happen. So, all right, there we go. There's my spew out the mouth right there. Let's continue. Spew. Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Appreciate that. Let's continue the conversation, talking about productivity and YouTube productivity. Let's talk a little bit about tools, and it's okay if we mention ones that we've mentioned in other episodes. This could be a first-time listener right now. So what are some tools or software that you use? So maybe, I'll leave it at general topic like that.
Mm-hmm. As far as tools, one thing that helps me is just having a calendar. I use Calendly.
Yeah,
I
great
started
tool.
using it because of this podcast, and it's nice to be able to check an app and see, oh, this is what I have to do this week. This is the different types of appointments. This is how long everything's going to take. I think just having a legitimate calendar, whether it's a physical calendar or a digital one, I do prefer digital. Then you are going to be more organized. You're going to have a bit more mental space. And I think just that is important, especially, I do freelancing, and I've made a couple different event types where, if I have a podcast guest that I'm going to be recording with, they will schedule one type of appointment. And then if I have a YouTube consultation appointment where I'm helping somebody build their channel, then I'm like, hey, here's that type of appointment you can schedule through this link. And then I just kind of end up having an organized schedule of what my week is going to look like. So even just general tools like that, I don't know if this is exactly what you were looking for, but
No,
I
yeah.
think if you're too disorganized, you're going to end up doing less because you don't know, like, what do I have to do today? How much time do I actually have? You start kind of doubting yourself in dealing with just more disorganization, and you waste a lot more energy.
I want to remind you that today's episode is brought to you by vidchops.com, which is a flat rate video editing service that allows you to take the burden of editing totally off your hands so that you can focus on more important things in your business. So go ahead, check out vidchops.com if you want to add an expert video editor to your team in just a few clicks. That's vidchops.com. And now back to today's episode. Yep, totally agree. That was actually a great tool, calendly.com. And I knew this conversation was going to take a turn in this way, to where being a YouTuber is like being your own boss. Being a YouTuber, you're normally working from home. So it's almost like the productivity and just any tips that we're giving in this podcast today could also be some applied to just being like a remote worker, right? Like almost like that, or being your own boss. So, things like time blocking, or, writing it down in a document, creating checklists, to-do lists, using a calendar. I think these are all great things that if you aren't using them in your day-to-day life, you should start, or in whatever you're doing, especially in your YouTube journey as well. Because once you start, we're doing this full time, you're your own boss, that's like really the time when you might wake up the next day and be like, I have a new issue that I've never faced before because I just quit my job. All my responsibilities where I had to show up, I had to be on this call, now I'm the boss. So I can just miss everything. Like I can just not even do anything if I don't want to. And so that's when you're going to start looking at, okay, how do I stay productive? How do I stay productive? Because, Grant, I know you kind of work for yourself, and then I also work for myself, and it's challenging at times. So, that's what made me kind of think about this. Mm-hmm. So Calendly, let me think of any tools that I would use. So I like the whole Google suite. Like, if you have a free Gmail, then you have access to the whole Google suite. There's a Google Calendar. We talked about calendars, which essentially I think can do everything Calendly does. Maybe Calendly has one or two maybe better features, but I think it can do, most of it. And then, then you have Google Docs, Google Sheets, right? For all your financial stuff that you're doing with YouTube, like you can use Google Sheets to keep track of costs and expenses and money coming in or whatever. What else is a good one in there? There's actually like a project management one in there too. I don't use that one too often, but Google Slides, I love taking notes on Google Slides because it automatically can be a presentation if you want to show people. But all right, let's get a little bit away. Let's get back onto the YouTube productivity stuff and start talking a little bit about our recording studios, or recording space, I guess you could call it. How can we like optimize our recording area or space for productivity?
Mm-hmm. So that's an interesting one because it really depends on the space. I record in my bedroom, which can be pretty annoying sometimes. One helpful thing I find is just kind of keeping it relatively clean kind of throughout the week. Things clutter up, and just kind of taking cups into the kitchen, like empty ones, throwing trash out, just kind of keeping the space presentable at least like close to presentable, so that when you do have time to film, you don't have to like shove everything into a corner and do all this extra stuff. And you can end up kind of wasting a lot of time if your space isn't presentable. Another thing, so if this is one thing I've been looking into, actually, I just got an email from a sales guy for this. I have been looking into getting a dedicated office space for recording and editing, just a studio, essentially. The idea is that if you have a dedicated space, then you have this sort of mental separation between home and work. Also, let's say you want if you want a dedicated office, you have to decide between a home office and somewhere separate. If you're renting, say, an extra bedroom so you can have a home office, you're essentially paying for a full living space, right? With that extra room. Like, theoretically, a person could rent that room and have access to a kitchen, a bathroom, if they're lucky, maybe a backyard, et cetera, et cetera. But if you rent an office space, you're kind of just paying for like an empty box that you can fill with furniture and stuff. So theoretically, it would be cheaper to do that than rent an extra bedroom. And it's something I've been considering. And I think it's something that is worth looking into in general.
Yeah, like a co-working space or something like that is a great productivity hack. If not for recording, okay, I think that's great because you'll go there, you'll be focused. But even just for your day-to-day business stuff, going to a co-working space is huge, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you have to carry your camera and set it up every time and tear it down, I think that gets a little bit more challenging. But if you do have a dedicated space where it's already all set up, and I've seen people set up their Alexa, right? And they say, Alexa, studio lights on, and boom, all their studio lights are on, the exact ones. Like, for example, I'm recording this with some studio lights. I had to go around individually, click, 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 and at the end I got to do the same thing, although that doesn't take that much time. But yeah,
it all adds up.
It all adds up, and it's just kind of how much can you handle? And I remember, Grant, when I was moving offices, because my one of my bedrooms was in my office, and then we had another baby, so he took that room, and I got moved into the garage. I remember showing up late to this podcast, like 5 minutes, here and there a couple times, just because I was like, I'm setting this thing up every time, and I can't get it right, and every single time was a different look. And finally, if you're watching the video, what you're seeing is what I have, and now it's easy. Okay, my camera doesn't move; it just stays there. I just got to turn it on and off and take the lens off, and that's it. The settings are all good for this kind of lighting setup. The lighting setup doesn't change. I have a hair light hitting me down from the top. I have 2 soft boxes in front of me, and then an LED colored RGB light behind me, and then the green light that I just plug in, and that's it. And it's all good to go. It takes me probably 30 seconds to get it all set up and going. I got to plug just one piece into my laptop. I'm recording on a laptop right now, so this laptop is mobile. I can take it, I can bring it back and just plug in literally my headphones, the charger, and then one other connection that is connected to my microphone and connected to Cam Link, which links my mirrorless camera and allows me to use it as a webcam, basically, through Cam Link. And it's all just one click into my side of my MacBook, and it's good to go. So I would say that is the key, is to have it already set up. Like, your recording space, you should not have to move lights closer or further away or mess with the dim them lower. You shouldn't have to change the settings on your camera. They should stay the same. And yeah, I think that's kind of the name of the game if you're shooting talking head. Now, if you're not shooting talking head, then none of that even matters to you because you're on the fly running gun. But the good news about that is, as long as you're just okay with vlogging and being on the move and talking like that, then I think that's not too challenging. You're not using studio lights and all that kind of stuff. But if you are using a green screen or something like that, then I don't know. If you need to move your camera, basically, it could be challenging.
No, I think it's just it's good to double down on the more that you can have permanently set up, the better. And the more you can optimize, if you can say, Alexa, turn on studio lights and cameras, and it all just kind of turns on at once. I think that's the ultimate goal with productivity when it comes to filming, is, if you can just streamline everything, then you're going to save yourself a lot of time. And I'll use the word again, mental space. It's like the more little lights you got to turn on and things you got to move around. It's like by the time you get in front of the camera, I think if it takes too long, you can be a little, I don't know, a little more tired, a little more flustered, a little more annoyed, and your presence isn't going to be quite as good. Whereas if you just were able to sit down or stand up and start talking, then it's going to feel more natural.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's a good point. And there's other good tips too you gave there, Grant, about like, having a clean area and all that kind of stuff. That's all good stuff that I think does help with productivity. Let's talk a little bit about equipment now. We talked about Alexa or whatever it's called. That's a piece of equipment that could help you with your productivity. Another one that I thought of is teleprompter. So a teleprompter, if you're really struggling, right, to get your video finished because you just can't get through your lines, that might be a piece of equipment that you might want to look into. It will cost you more time in the scripting phase, but could help save you when it comes time to record. I know there's been times where I'm like, I'm about to record this 12-minute video. I scripted the whole thing out. I'm trying to not use a teleprompter, looking down, looking up. And then eventually I'm just like, screw this. Let me just copy, paste, put it in the teleprompter, and then I'm just getting through it in like 2 takes, really. Like when I use a teleprompter, that's what I do. I try to do at least 2 takes. The first one, I'll go through it and I'll make a lot of mistakes and stuff. I'm like, it's okay, we'll just edit it. But then the second take is always so much better. I'm like, okay, let me just rest for 5 minutes, go through the second take. And I normally can anticipate like the lines a little bit better and kind of hit them harder and do the better facial expressions or whatever. But yeah, teleprompter, any other equipment that you can think of that would help you with productivity?
Teleprompter was going to be my main one, especially for filming.
Yeah.
There's nothing huge that comes to mind, honestly.
Yeah, the only other thing that maybe I could relate to productivity could be standing desk, maybe, So standing desk, I think, has been proven that if you're standing, you do work harder. That's not true for me personally. Standing desk, I'll start slouching and leaning and just zoning out. But I think that's a good one.
Yeah, another good one I just thought of. This seems kind of obvious, but buy a nice office chair, even if you aren't sure you can afford a really nice one. This one, I wasn't making much money at the time, but I bought it for $300, and I still have it many years later. And the one before that was, I think it was like $60 or something. And it just hurt my back. I was in more pain every time I would sit in it for long periods of time. Again, kind of an obvious thing, but invest in a proper chair because you're going to be sitting in it forever. It's worth the extra money. Assuming you have any extra money whatsoever, invest in a proper chair and a standing desk, like you mentioned as well. But it's good to have both. I don't have a standing desk, but I wish I did.
Yeah, I'll one up you right there and say one other piece of equipment that is probably the most important is a computer that can render video.
Oh my God.
If we're talking about productivity, we all know, like, everyone who starts out creating videos, right? The first computer that you have that you're like, all right, I'm going to start creating videos. What do I need to buy? And you buy a camera or whatever, and then you shoot the video, and then you're like, I'm going to edit it. I have a laptop. And then you go and edit it, and you're like, uh-oh, can't really edit video on this laptop. I feel like that happens to everyone. I don't know. Maybe it's because I was like a 16-year-old kid at the time.
It does.
Yeah. And so then you start to learn, like, what do I need, to get a better one? And that's why, like, I don't know too much about building computers and RAM and processors and all that stuff. So I'm like, just let me buy the best MacBook Pro, the new generation. Whenever I need a new computer, I just do that, and it can edit video quite well. But yeah, get a good computer that's going to be able to render, because nothing will hurt your productivity more than just your computer crashing or whatever.
Yeah, I'm kind of embarrassed that I didn't think of that, because so this computer that I'm recording this on right now, I built it myself, and I've kind of just upgraded it over the years. I'm like, okay, need a new CPU, plug that in, I think one time I had to replace the motherboard so that I could get a new CPU, and then I had to completely like gut it and then fill everything back in. But yes, it is so frustrating having to re-render something with a slow computer. Like you watch the rendered video, it took 3 hours to export, and then you watch it only to realize that you made some dumb mistake or Premiere glitched or something. That's always more infuriating than if you made the mistake and then you have to like figure out how to work around the glitch, and then you don't even know if your re-rendering is going to work. And it's just, it can be so frustrating. And if you can just hit render and it finishes really quickly, then oh my god, like the amount of time I have saved by investing in the proper video editing equipment is astronomical. It's unquantifiable. I yeah, totally agree. I almost, my computer is quite good, and I kind of forgot that, like, it's so intuitive now using it that I just kind of forgot.
Take it for granted.
That's how important it is.
Yeah. I can feel that too, because I didn't think of it either. And you do take it for granted, because when you start thinking about those old days back in the day when it wouldn't render, like, God, that was like the worst ever. Anyways, let's keep this moving. So now that we're talking about editing a little bit, let's talk a little bit about post-production or editing productivity hacks. You got any for me there?
Editing productivity, I would say, so especially if you're doing a lot of work with assets. So, you're doing a lot of different cuts. You're like talking about this thing and you want to show a picture of this thing. And then 5 seconds later, you're showing a picture of another thing. So you have a lot of like images and videos that you need to cut to. I would recommend, instead of going through and kind of, I'm struggling to put this into words, but basically find all of your assets first and then put them in. So don't like watch 5 seconds of your video and be like, oh, I need to download this video and this picture, and then watch the next 5 seconds and then download it again and then put it into the timeline. Do it more like an assembly line. So, watch the video, take notes of the assets you're going to need, and then kind of find it all at once, put it into an organized folder, and then put everything into the timeline. So it's more of an assembly line. It's more organized. This is something I'm still kind of working on doing, because, it's easier said than done, but if you do it properly, it does save you a lot of time.
Yeah, it's all about finding that workflow. It's huge, because, me personally, I like to go through and jump cut everything first and take out all the mistakes. And then you kind of got the videos kind of like done, like there's still a lot more work you need to do, but that workflow is super important. And I understand what you're saying. Like, don't go down some rabbit hole in the middle of your edit and be like, oh, I would like some text animation to pop up right here. Here we go, motionarray.com. This is another tool I guess you could use that has trillions of motion graphics. And now you're searching around, oh, I like this one, let me download it, or, let me look through like 20 different ones before you choose one. Like, you need to kind of like create your branding ahead of time, already have everything kind of all laid out to where, like, if you want text animation, here's the plugin, or here's the text that you've used in the past. It's already set with like a preset and everything. So you can just boom, add, it's already preset, so it looks good, and move on. Because it's not like when you're at the point of editing, you've already got it recorded, scripted, and all that. Like, that baby needs to get up online. Like, you don't want that thing sitting around. You want to get it done. You want to get it uploaded, completely finished, and just on to the next one, because that's basically how YouTube works, right? So yeah, I mean, I've even heard some people, pitching like, hey, take my course that teaches you how to edit a YouTube video, and it only take you 5 minutes to edit a YouTube video. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's, pretty good. 5 minutes to edit a YouTube video. I've never seen that before. But really, they're just like cutting off the beginning, cutting off the end, throwing the intro, outros, they're literally just rendering it to get it up on YouTube. And I'm like, yeah, it makes a lot of sense, just, depending on what kind of video you have, But yeah, I think the workflow is important. I think also, as far as productivity, file management of all your assets and just all your raw footage, you need like a naming convention where, whatever. We like to use like date and title on there. And all those things are important, and just not getting lost in like having to look for files and waste time and that kind of stuff. So yeah, any other thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I think just being as organized as possible during the editing process is huge. Like, you can waste a lot of time. Even you can change where your default downloads go. And basically every video I have to change where my browser is going to be downloading assets to. If you're downloading to some random folder and then every time you download something, you have to like copy it into the correct folder. It's just like that adds time. And again, it takes up mental space. Just avoid that. Like have everything good to go before you start editing. Like, okay, my download folder's right. I'm gonna do the editing in this process, this kind of more assembly lined, organized way. And if you stick to these conventions, you're going to save yourself time and some headaches for sure.
Yep, totally agree. All right. Let's talk a little bit now of what most YouTubers would call probably the biggest productivity hack, and that's batch recording. So we've talked maybe once or twice about this in the past. I built my entire Baller Bootcamp basketball training channel on batch recording in a major way, but I do also believe that it did hurt the channel in some ways as well, doing it that way, although it was what worked for me. So like, what is your opinion on batch recording? Do you recommend it? Yes or no? Kind of, depends. What's your thoughts?
The answer is depends, and I am curious about why you think it hurt your channel. So, and I'll throw that to you, but first I want to say, with the videos that I make on Treesicle, they're very creative, and I could write multiple scripts at once. I think that is an option, and then just kind of record them, maybe change outfits or something in between videos. But sometimes I think also it's like, okay, but then you have to finish 2 scripts before you can record 2 videos, and maybe you need to get a video out ASAP, and that just isn't really practical or helpful. Also, I tend to like to, especially if I'm going to be editing my own videos, and your videos take a while to edit, then it's nice to kind of mix it up, right? So you write, then you record, then you edit, and then you get to do it all over again, as opposed to like, if I batch recorded, then I feel like I'm obligated to essentially edit 2 videos in a row. And at least for me, that would be, I don't know, just if I'm working with an editor, that's less of a problem. But if I'm not, then I don't want to edit that much in a row. I'm going to lose my mind. So that's my caveat with batch recording. So I am curious, why do you feel like it hurt Baller Bootcamp?
Yeah, it's just because, number one, there are a couple things, but the first thing is that I felt like kind of the algorithm changed like in the middle of me batch recording. I would record in the summers, and I would record like 52 videos in the summer, and then I would move to Europe, and when I lived over there, I wouldn't record at all, and I would release one a week. I felt like there was a time when YouTube was like, okay, we're all about watch time now, so if you have short videos, at that point, it was kind of like, don't create short videos. Like, that's not a good idea. And so I had all these videos, 50 videos built up that weren't focused on keeping viewers watching. That wasn't focused on watch time. And so I thought that hurt it. Also, trends, right? When trends happen, if you only record, whatever, once a week and stuff, you batch record once a week or once a month, I think that's okay. You can still catch trends. Maybe not once a month. You can't catch them as easy, but you can't catch trends doing it the way I was doing it, where I was recording 50 videos in the summer and then releasing them once a week throughout the year.
That's a lot of videos to batch record, though. I feel like there is a happy medium here. 50 is so many. I'm amazed.
50 over, 2 to 3 months. So I'd spend 3 months recording them and just releasing old ones that I'd batch record from the summer previously. But yeah, I mean, there were times where I batch record. It was 40 videos in a day. Oh, and one of them was for a course. So I was creating a course, but it was not the same as Treesicle or even any content I create nowadays, because it was strictly like me teaching you how to do a drill that I do every single day when I'm working out myself, So I'm like, all right, it was so easy, man, to just be able to coach, because it's something I've been doing my whole life. It was basketball. Yeah, so it was just one of those freak things, I think, where maybe you should, if you're listening to this, how can you set your channel up maybe to be able to do this? to where I could really just rattle off the top of the head and one take it and complete a video. So anyways, I miss those days because nowadays it is definitely not like that when I make videos. It takes me a full day at least. But that's why I thought that it kind of hurt me. And that's one reason why I say there are some weaknesses to batch recording because you can't catch the trends maybe, but yeah.
Well, I think there's a happy medium here where if you batch record and you have a bunch of videos that are in the editing pipeline and a trend comes up, you can just drop what you're working on and suddenly work on that trend. Like you don't have to be super rigid. I think if you can optimize sort of evergreen videos that you can release whenever, and they're going to do just as well if you release one 3 months from now versus releasing it right now. There's no reason to ignore a trend that you want to cover in order to push out this video that you could easily just release in a few weeks, you know? I think it's about being flexible and kind of usually like I think you want to generally release evergreen content unless you're somebody who just like you love following trends, that's your thing. But if you can manage it, then batch record these videos that are evergreen, and just be willing to drop everything if a big trend comes up, and just have that be a part of how you work.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, you can always still go and record, even if you've got a bunch of videos kind of set up, ready to go. You can always go and catch a trend. But I always felt like I couldn't when I was in Europe because I just didn't have access to a gym or gyms like I do here in California. So that was always kind of my challenge and my reason for doing that. So, yeah. All right. What about any kind of final productivity hacks when it comes to like optimizing your video, like uploading it to YouTube? Getting the title plugged in, the tags, the whatever, the end cards. Is there any productivity stuff there?
Yeah, vidIQ, TubeBuddy. vidIQ is good. It'll suggest good tags for you, so you don't have to go hunt for them. That can save you a lot of time. Also, having a bunch of default tags that every time you upload a video, you already have a bunch of tags there, so you don't have to redo it every time. You can have a default description too. So this is just something, if you go into your YouTube channel settings, there's a tab called, I think, default uploads, something like that.
Yeah.
And you can just insert all of your default tags, your default description, and just kind of, you don't have to start from scratch every time. And even that is helpful. Obviously, you can add things, take things away, but just sort of having that foundation with every upload, that's for sure going to save you time. Another thing, at least with like thumbnails, an important part of the upload process, it kind of depends on what you're doing, right? If you are doing something super creative, then I think your thumbnail is just going to have to be kind of unique every time. But if you're doing something like a podcast, you can probably develop a thumbnail style, just sort of some standard text, kind of have the face in a standardized place. That way you can kind of like cookie cutter these thumbnails. They're still engaging, but you've decided on an engaging style that is easy to replicate with each new upload. So those are just a couple things. So vidIQ to suggest tags, utilizing defaults, tags and descriptions in your upload settings, and then coming up with a thumbnail style if it fits what you are doing.
Yeah, and I think all YouTubers or people that create content should at least every now and then, maybe just once a year, but every now and then do like a photo shoot for their thumbnails and just get a whole bunch of content that you never know, you might use or might not use, but at least you need your face. If your face is gonna be on the channel and stuff, like normally, your face is gonna be all over the YouTube thumbnails and stuff too. So having those assets and stuff already kind of right there are good. I mean, imagine having to shoot a custom thumbnail every single video. It's doable and people do it. I mean, what a lot of people do is that when they're finished recording that video for whatever they're talking about, then they'll just pose a couple times and just screenshot the actual video. And not even like take an actual photo. So that's an easy way too. But yeah, lots of different ways to streamline that process. It's an important one though. So, all right. So any final thoughts, Grant, on productivity when it comes to being a YouTuber, and just any pitfalls or challenges that you want to bring up?
Yeah, just find a way to schedule without being too rigid. So, we with the whole batch recording thing, I think often people they feel like they need to choose something. And there can be a power in choosing something. This is what I do. This is how I do things. But if you're too rigid, then you can end up shooting yourself in the foot. So it's really about being as organized as possible, while still being a little bit flexible. And I know that's kind of generic advice, but we covered a lot of specifics in here, and it's just don't try too hard. That's that's my favorite productivity tip. If you are obsessing over something, maybe go do something else, and you'll figure it out. And obviously, you want to check off things on your to-do list, but also maybe have some respect for your mind and realize that if you are unable to tackle a problem right now, maybe it's not because you're a super dumb big idiot. Maybe you just need a break and need to go do something else for a while. So that's kind of my biggest productivity tip, just to stop trying so hard.
Yeah, that's good stuff. I love it. So, all right, you guys, thank you so much for listening today. If you listened all the way to the end right now, we would appreciate an iTunes review. 5 stars would be much appreciated. So head over to videocreator.co/iTunes, and that will take you over to our iTunes where you can give us that 5-star review. Thank you so much for listening. Again, this is brought to you by vidchops.com that allows you to add an expert video editor to your team in just a few clicks so that you never have to edit again. And that's about it for today. We will see you guys in the next episode.